Well, good evening, everyone, and good evening to you, Mario. How are you?
Hello, Bill. I'm fine, thank you. Nice to see you here.
And you, Mario, you always get the hard job, which is to come along and talk to us about what's happening in the council meetings. And it's not always that easy, is it?
Well, but
Because
it is a little bit funny, so I think we can enjoy the summary of our last meeting that took place on Friday. That was, as you know, as the of February is a little bit shorter. The
yeah,
last the last Wednesday was a Friday, and we had our meeting on the Friday, and 1 hour later than usual at 11 instead of at 10.
yeah, I know. I have to make a confession to everyone that I had to leave the council meeting early because I have a radio show at 1 o'clock on a Friday, and the council meetings never happen on Fridays or at 11 o'clock, and these are the kind of things that I can't really cancel, given that I'm part time, as you are, Mario. Yeah.
Yes, as all of us in the opposition. So we all have a private life which feed half of our need, and we all have obligations and liability. But I was there on Friday until 2:30 p.m. more or less, which is when it finished.
Right. Okay. So we seem to say this every time, Mario, but the main part of the council meeting is just about approving expenditure, isn't it?
Correct. In this meeting, we had 16 points to discuss, and further 8 of emergencies. Emergency means that the government that has had the whole month to do things send them the night before the plenum. So for us not to have a lot of time to discuss it. And if
Right.
we make questions in the plenum, they say that we have had time enough to see it and discuss, which in fact means that they don't read whatever they bring to the plenum. So instead of replying our question, they simply blame us for not doing our work. That happens every month.
Yeah, listen, Mario. I mean, I've only been a councillor for a bit less than 3 years. Is it just the typical thing that every council meeting, a lot of time is spent approving expenditure, or is this something new or different?
Well, I must say that I was a councillor of economy and taxes during almost 5 years, and we only bring those invoices once a year in March. And
Right,
our problem was never invoices without contracts or anything. Our problem was that we had overspent during the year,
right,
so those invoices couldn't be paid for the money of that year. So in February, more or less, or in March, whenever the accounts of the year before were finished and the budget of the present year was approved, we declared that those invoices spent in the year before were going to be allocated against the budget of this year. That was
right,
happening only once a year, around
right,
February or March.
right. Okay, there was a bit of debate and discussion, Mario, and I did put this on the publicity for the live stream. But why does MIjas want to borrow 527,000 euros to pay its bills? And part of the debate was that the Councillor for Finance kept on saying, "We're not asking for a loan. It says not a loan. We're not asking for a loan." Well, is it a loan or isn't it a loan?
Well, in fact, the papers do not say alone because the papers are written in Spanish and they use a word which is préstamo.
Yeah, and I
Préstamo. And I'm sure most of the foreigners have at least once in their life asked for a préstamo hipotecario, for a mortgage.
and this is the document that you're referring to, and it does
Correct.
say préstamo con el fondo.
Préstamo.
Yeah.
Correct. And the word préstamo and the word free are never together. Means that this préstamo will have interests. Is
Right.
this a bad thing? No. A préstamo is what you ask for when you have to pay something and you don't have money.
Sure.
Which is the problem in Mijas? We have money. We have more than 100 million euros in the bank. And I know not many of us have that amount of money in the bank, but if there is anyone watching our show who has 100 millions in the bank, will know that the banks are starting to charge some fees for holding your money.
Yeah.
So in one way, we are paying fees for the money we have in our bank account, and at the same time, we are going to pay interest for a loan that the town hall is asking to pay 527,000 euros in invoices.
Right.
And the question that possibly you and myself are wondering, why? Why do we need to go this route? Well, the first thing to say, you know that instead of the 1st of April, we celebrate the Innocents' Day, the 28th of December.
Yeah, that's like April Fool's Day, but it's in December. Yeah.
Right. Our national government approved the budget the 28th of December 2021, the Innocents'
Right.
Day. And usually they add a lot of things to that law. So in the addition 94, so it means you
Right.
have to read 93 additions before reaching the 194. It forced the town hall who are paying more than 30 days late, they are forcing those town halls to ask for this loan to pay all the suppliers.
Right. Okay.
So it is a pity that we, MIjas, having 100 million euros in the bank, are taking 90 days to pay our bills. So the
Right.
government has approved this plan to help the town hall who do not have money in order to give them some funds to pay the bill. But that is not the case in MIjas. In MIjas, they don't pay because they have no money. They don't pay because they don't work enough, because they don't make the contract, and they get the bills without having a proper contract before, or
Right.
they do not follow the law when ordering works. That's why they cannot pay the bills properly. That's why they are ashamed one month after another in the monthly pleno, and these bills have to be serious enough, so they don't want to bring them to the pleno, and they prefer to pay it through this hidden method.
Right. Okay. So if they get this money, they will be able to just pay these suppliers. And obviously, we want suppliers to be paid. It's not that we're saying suppliers shouldn't be paid, but they'll be able to do that without asking permission to spend the money from the MIjas budget.
Yes, well, correct. But in this case, what the government approved is that those creditors will get the money directly from the government, because this is a
Ah,
decision, a loan for town halls who are not fulfilling their obligations. So
right.
the town hall has produced a list of invoices to the government, and the government will pay them directly and will sign this loan, this préstamo with MIjas Town Hall, which if
Right.
MIjas Town Hall doesn't return, it will be deducted from the money they pay to MIjas Town Hall every year. You may have heard that we get from the central government about 175 euros per person and year.
Right.
If
Yeah.
we don't pay our obligations, the central government will withhold those 527,000 euros from that amount of money.
Right. Okay. So, I don't want to politicize this, but it is a political issue, Mario. When I looked at Transparency Index for MIjas, I think we came up 191, and that was on a large area. But I think along the Costa del Sol, we're at the bottom of the list, and financial transparency was running at 14.5%. Uh, for me, as a taxpayer in Mijas, I have to say that is not good enough.
Well, the fact is that the name of MIjas can be found easier if you start from the bottom.
You're right. Yeah.
And it is a pity because we always compare ourselves with Fuengirola, and Fuengirola is in number one of the list at
Yeah.
the same level of another city. So let's say they share number one with another. And it is not that difficult. If you are transparent, you will be top in the list. Why
Sure.
are not we transparent? I don't know, but if you go to the website of MIjas, you will find that the latest contracts they are showing are more than 2 years ago.
Okay.
More than 2 years ago. So it is not a bad weekend. it is 2 years delay. So those things are seen by these people who include MIjas in their indexes, and that's why we are at the very bottom.
Right. So that's why we want. Well, I kind of been ordered to borrow this money in a sense, aren't we, by central government?
The point is that this was not voted, it was just reported. In the
Right.
monthly meeting, there are some points in which the town hall simply reports what they have done. They have to do this by law, not because they enjoy reporting these things, because they get the criticism from us. It is simply that the law says that they have to do it. This is something that they did during January, and they had to report it now in the monthly meeting of February. They
Right.
were a little bit ashamed.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I think I would just add to all of this that we're now into March, and we still don't have an approved budget for this year, do we?
yes, because the problem is that this year has come all of a sudden. We didn't know that January was coming immediately after December. They thought that they would have 2 or 3 months to prepare their budget, and they didn't. And there is not even a clue of how the budget is going. And this is affecting many areas of the town hall, mainly those that will have to start again the accountancy from the 1st of January, whenever the yearly budget is approved, if any.
Right. My good friend Gordon O'Keefe, whom I worked with at La Roche, has said if you need to borrow €500,000 to pay bills, then there's mismanagement from the party in charge, and you know, the, the money has not been managed well, Mario, has it?
Well, one of the points in the pleno, which was not fully attended, it was almost disregarded, is the level of execution of the budget. And if you see, they have spent only 2/3 of the money they had. That means they have honored only 2/3 of their promises. But
Right.
when you go to the investments, it is even worse. They have only done 1/3. That means that every time they have been taking a picture, 2 out of 3 has been completely useless.
Right.
2 out of 3 investments have not been done in the year in which it was programmed and where the money was allocated. Only
Okay.
1/3 of the investments and only 2/3 in general of the execution of the budget. That means that they are not spending the money, they are not working, and also when they do something, they do it wrongly, and that's why they have to get this loan of €527,000.
Right. Okay, Mario, there were a couple of other things that came up, and I know one of them is a bit of a hot potato. When I even just mention it, I'll get you to talk us through it, which is to do with the reception of Rivera del Sol, and the green zones. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yes, correct. Possibly the most interesting part of the monthly meetings are the questions of our political party, because during the first part, they simply report what they have done, whether we like it or not. They have a majority and everything will be voted and it will go on. And then we get our questions. And I have been asking for this during several months, and they give a different answer every time. And the history is this. Ribera del Sol is the only urbanization where the developer was a big company and is still running, and everything was more or less organized. Calahonda is the other big urbanization, but they have different developers and it was more complicated. So whenever we reached government at the middle of 2011 with 70 million euros debt, we did not work only collecting money and paying bills, we also worked in the reception of the urbanizations. And in April 2015, finally, with all the reports done by all the technicians, not by us, all the technicians,
Right.
we approved in the governing board, we approved the reception of Riviera. That means all the roads, all the green belts, and also several plots that should be given to the town hall, where the town hall could build schools,
Yeah.
parks, fire brigade stations, whatever.
Yeah, and can I just explain that this is something that I don't know if it happens all the time, but it certainly happens that when areas are being developed, that there is this sort of agreement, one, that certain green zones will be built into it, and very often that a proportion of the land is allocated to the council. Is that right, Mario? Is that how it
Yes,
works?
correct. Perhaps we should have started from this. While some cities grow around a central point, like a circle, some
Right.
other areas grow as a disseminated, like cancer grows.
Yeah.
The cells go far. So when someone, a developer, buys a non-buildable area and transfer that into a buildable area, the town hall says, all right, you have to make these roads, you have to make all this, and also you have to give me 10 or 15% of the land so I can build some equipment. This
Right.
is what happened in all the urbanizations in Mijas. So this happened in Riviera del Sol whenever the urbanization was finished, because it was not done all of a sudden, it took a number of years. So in April 2015, everything was ready, everything was agreed, and everything was signed. The only step missing was to go to the notary and sign the title deed so the town hall would become the owner of all those things: the
Yes.
road, the pedestrian pavements, the green belts, more than 54 plots, plus several other plots to build certain services. The elections took place in May 2015, and there was a new councillor of the building department called Andres Ruiz. Andres Ruiz did not sign these title deeds, neither in 2015, nor in 2016, nor in 2017. So the developers of Riviera del Sol took the town hall to court, requesting this to be signed. And the town hall, instead of being ashamed and say, sorry, excuse me, I didn't have time, I will do it tomorrow, they appointed a lawyer to fight the court case. And
Right.
what has happened? The judge has apparently, on the first instance, given the rule in favor of the town hall because someone in Riviera del Sol in 2017 wrote a letter saying that he was not happy with this. I don't know whether that person just wanted to remain in the system because he was part of the management of Riviera. I don't know, and I don't want to know. The point is that as the town hall never replied that letter of 2017, the judge says that the agreement we took in April 2015 is not definite, is not final, is not firm, which is something really silly, because how can you cancel or declare not firm a decision taken by a government just producing a piece of paper 2 years after, which
Yeah.
has not been even replied?
Yeah.
So we know that Riviera del Sol has appealed to this decision, and I'm sure they will win the court case. And Mijas Town Hall, unfortunately, will lose it and will have to pay the costs.
Yeah.
But the most worrying thing is that about 6,000 people or 6,000 properties inhabited in Ribera del Sol could have stopped paying their great community fees in May 2015 should this government have done their job. And this is what I shamed them on the monthly meeting. And the councillor of the building department didn't know well what to say and how to escape out of this. He said that this was not automatic, this, and that. But at the end, that's rubbish. If Mijas Town Hall agreed to take that decision, it should happen, and it should have happened in May 2015. And since then, the Town Hall, who is getting the taxes from everybody living in Riviera, should be
Sure.
using that money to pay the cleaning and the asphalting of the roads and the maintenance of the green belts. So the urbanization should only pay for whatever they have as private. They are private gardens, they are private swimming pools, they are private parking spaces. But whatever is common should be paid by common money. And the only common money is the money of the town hall, which
Yeah.
is funded by all of us paying our rates.
Okay, so it's a case of watch this space, Mario, to see what happens in due course through the legal channels.
That's right. The point is that everybody complains when they ask for an appointment with the doctor. and they are giving 1 week or 1 month after, but nobody knows that a court sentence may take 2 or 3 years. And so possibly the second and final decision will be taken in 2 or 3 years' time. And in the meantime, a lot of families will continue paying their community fees in Ribera del Sol because the government of Mijas Town Hall is not doing their duty.
Right. Okay, Mario. Right. There was another thing which you mentioned, and I think you raised at the meeting last Friday, which is about the plan for emergencies, sort of crisis planning.
Correct.
Can you explain why you raised this?
Yes, in July 2018, Mijas Town Hall approved the revision of the emergency plan. This is something that has to be done every 4 years. And they did it with data of population and other things from 2014, which is 4 years before. So I told them, listen, your plan is now old enough to be reviewed because you are producing it today, July 2018, but with details from 2014. So the plan is old. But there were two important reasons. First, this plan disregarded all the population not empadronada. I know that could be perhaps between 10 and 20,000 people in winter, but it could be 50 or 60 or 80,000 euros in summer. How
Yes,
can you make a plan disregarding half of the residents in Mijas?
yeah. So we're talking about the way that the population of Mijas fluctuates between, let's say, summer and winter with residential tourism, people who have second homes here, and
Right.
as you say, we're talking about tens of thousands more people here in summer than we are perhaps in, I don't know, November.
Correct, but even in November, we may have 10 or 20,000 people not registered.
Right.
They were disregarded. But which is worse, they disregarded that we are a summer holiday point, and in summer we may even double the population. And we
Sure.
know that because of the amount of rubbish, the consumption of electricity and water. So those data are public, and I mentioned that, and I was ignored as usual. But there is a second point. That plan seems to be designed for Mijas village in the top of a mountain. And there is a very strange phrase that says that the risk of flooding is disregarded. So
Right.
whoever has done the plan doesn't know that a very big area of Mijas is called Las Lagunas, the lakes,
The
because
lakes.
of the river overflows. And also, the town hall wants to build a park in a plot of 250,000 meters very close to the river, which is called El Ahogadero.
Yeah, can you translate that bit? Because
Ahogadero is the place where people drown, so call
yeah,
it the drowner or the drowning pot. So having a place called Las Lagunas and being the owner of a plot called El Ahogadero, cannot you guess that perhaps there is a small risk of flood in Mijas? But also, Mijas and Fuengirola were grown as cities not only because of the fish from the sea, also because, and everybody knows since Egypt, when a river overflows, everything which is inside the river is spread among the land at both sides of the river, and that makes that area more productive. That is why many things grow near the rivers, not only because it is wet, also because when it overflows, all the sand which is in the river goes to both sides of the river. So that's why Mijas and Las Lagunas existed. Mijas village is a different history. So knowing that, I have been asking once and again to review this plan. Then we come to January 2021 when we had this phenomenon called Filomena. You may
yeah,
remember
storm. Yeah.
there was a storm, a lot of rains. Between 5 and 8 p.m., our government activated the emergency plan at 10:22 p.m., 2 hours after all the rain has fallen. This is a criticism, but I did it. And I also used that opportunity to tell them, 2 persons have already died crossing the river. Possibly it was their fault. I am not blaming anyone, but I think Town Hall perhaps could have done more, activated this emergency plan 2 hours before, and perhaps having more barriers. Whatever, I think this business
Yeah.
should be considered in the emergency plan.
But
I
but but that's what you do, Mario. You know, when something like this happens, you have, albeit an internal type of investigation to see, you know, what happened. Could we have prevented it? Is there something we need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again? But they have just refused again and again to review this plan, haven't they?
Correct. And on that January, they said that I was taking advantage because of the tragedy. And I said, fine, but it was January last year. I have done it again January this year because one whole year has gone and they have done nothing.
Right.
And no reaction. So the plan is still ignoring the risk of flood and it is still disregarding the amount of people who live permanently here in Mijas not registered and the amount of tourists that we get in special moments of the year as in summer.
Right, Mario, we had a comment. I didn't want to put it on at the beginning because, you know, I didn't want to change the topic, but I'm going to put it up now. And it is the old, we say the old chestnut. It's about time the MIjas donkeys are set free. Now, I don't want to get into the the sort of debate about the MIjas donkeys. But you know what I do want to say is that I remember, and think if I'm correct, it was in August of 2019. You raised the issue of a major change for the MIjas donkeys, and they agreed that they would take this up and do something about it. Am I
Correct.
correct?
You are right, but you are forgetting that perhaps they added the word eventually.
Okay.
And it hasn't happened. And let me summarize the situation. We have been using the donkeys before as a tool for workers. Later, the donkey became a transport element, and lately it was an interest attraction for the tourists.
Yeah.
That is why we have donkeys in Mijas. And we believe that is compatible with the rights of the animals. But there is plenty of things to do. The first thing to do is for them to have a better and bigger accommodation. Now the donkeys are spread in 3 locations in Mijas. In 2
Yeah.
cases, they are in the houses. They are in the ground floor of a house, and people are living in the first floor of the houses. That is completely against all health laws because this is a city. So they all should be aggruppated in an area where there are no houses. And that area is where the third group of donkeys is, which is the Vial Sur. That
Yeah.
whole mountain belongs to Mijas, and it is very easy to excavate it a little bit longer so the donkeys could have like a room, an area where they could be alone, sleeping or whatever.
More
The
space.
sec-
Yeah.
More space. The space that they need, whatever Abed says, if it is 3.5 meters or if it is 32, plenty of room. The second thing is the sewage. Imagine that you don't have sewage in your house. They are suffering the same. There is no sewage, so they have, as they don't have toilet, they have to use the bed as a toilet. That is unacceptable. And you may not know, but the donkeys get their feet damaged by the dampness, as any
Sure.
of you would do if you are walking on the dampness continuously, and they suffer a lot. But the third thing, which is very easy, is for them to have an area to run free. To
Yeah.
run free when they are not on duty, because you know they are brought to work in theory 5 or 6 days a week, so they always have one day rest. And also whenever they retire. I know some people call this a refugio, refugee. They don't need a refugio because nobody is attacking them. What they need is an area to walk or to stay. And exactly opposite their present location, Mijas Town Hall has a plot of 10,000 square meters. Correctly, it is not completely flat. Fine. It is not flat, but the donkeys can go up and down through an area. They are not like goats, but they are not disabled. They can go up and down. So the idea is that that area, which belongs to MIjas Town Hall, could be fenced, and the donkeys could be there running free during most of the time when they are not working, when
Yeah,
they are not carrying people in
yeah,
MIjas village. And that is what we have been defending for the latest 3 or 4 years. Before, we had to concentrate all our efforts and attention on people. That's why we created the basic income program and we increased the help of those who were in need. But I think now Mijas has enough money to pay attention also to the donkeys. And if we don't pay enough attention to keep them in a good atmosphere, someone will come and say, as you are unable to have them properly, better if we take them away. And we don't want
yeah.
to lose the donkeys as an attraction. We want to keep them, but to keep them safe and healthy.
Yeah, and every time I meet the councillor who is responsible for it, and it actually comes under transport, I keep saying to him, "So what's the situation with plot of land for the donkeys? What's the situation? Oh, well, it's in urban planning, and it's then." And actually, I think nothing has been done. To be honest, that's what it feels like.
But they took seconds to refuse the plot that I was proposing. That was
Oh,
very easy.
it took at least 5 seconds, Mario.
Well, fine. So Mario says something, no, that is wrong. But do you have any alternative? Even after 3 years? No
No.
alternative. But what
Yeah.
Mario said was wrong.
And,
Sorry,
and
if you have nothing better, why don't you use this at least for the time being until you find something better?
and I think it's fair, and this is not making an excuse, Mario, that Mijas has never been in the situation it is now, with the amount of surplus of funds that it has. When you took over with Angel in 2011, you had 70 million in debt, not
Mhm.
100 million in surplus.
Correct.
And if there is a good time to really invest some money for the sake of the donkeys, now is the time, isn't it?
Mhm. And don't forget that this will not last forever. We
Yeah,
are so wealthy in Mijas, not only because we did many things and good, and not only because the people who are now in government are only spending two-thirds of the money. We are in this position mainly because of the building activity, which are paying a lot of fees. But
right,
all those fees in licenses will be needed later in services to those people because all those properties will be inhabited and all those people will be asking for parks, will be asking for parking, will
sure,
be asking for hospitals, will be asking for restaurants or bars or things like that. And then the town hall will have to give that money.
right,
And I am saying this disregarding Putin, because if Putin keeps doing what he loves, which is war, tourism may not be continuing as much as now in Europe, and perhaps all that income which is needed to pay for all those houses which are now under construction may not arrive. So a wise government would invest that money now properly in keeping the attraction of Mijas village in tourism, protecting the donkeys, and in some other things because the future is not written.
right. Mario, I think we're about time up. Thank you very much for explaining these things to us.
You're welcome.
I can't wait until the March Council meeting. And next week, our very own Daniela Vink is going to be back with us. Our mummy Daniela, little Nick is 1 month old, I think today. So congratulations again to Daniela and Jess. And Daniela will be joining us next week. And actually, what she is going to be looking at is the way that Mika's community is pulling together um, in practical ways to support the people of Ukraine. So that we're going to have some update on that. But the community have sort of taken this to heart and say we want to do something practical. So Daniela will be filling us in on what's happening there. Mario,
Very
thank
good. I will
you.
be paying my best attention. And don't forget to thank Daniela for bringing someone new to MIjas Town Hall, because the government will be sending 175 euros more every year. Thanks to her.
Yeah, well, we need to get her to get number 2 and 3 on the way so that we can get the money up. Mario, thank you. Thank you for those of you who have joined in. And we will be back 7 o'clock next week with Daniela. And Mario, have a very good weekend when it comes, and we shall speak soon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mario.